So you want to write an article, and you're probably writing this article to make some extra money. Maybe it's your side hustle, just like I have. You're writing your articles on something like Medium and you notice that people aren't reading your articles, or maybe they open your article but they don't finish it. In this video, I'm going to give you some tips on how to write an article people actually want to read to make sure that you can maximize your profits from your article. And even if you're not writing for money but just writing for fun, you can still use these tips to enhance and improve your articles. So it's important to remember that an article is different from an essay, a review, or any other type of writing. An article is there to inform the reader and to make sure that the reader can make their own informed decision about whatever you're writing about. Now, if you use these tips, you'll notice that it becomes a bit more difficult to write your article because the writing stage will take a bit longer. But I think quality goes over quantity in this case, and I think if you write a very good article, you can maximize your profit and maximize the readability and the reading time of your article. My bonus tip is going to be very language specific and does require some knowledge about language, but we'll look at that in the end. Now, the first tip is that you pick a topic that people find interesting or that people want to read at the moment. There are several tools on the internet you can use to find out which topics are hot topic, are viral and are interesting at the moment. For example, when Queen Elizabeth II died, I wrote an article about how Queen Elizabeth influenced English. And although this article doesn't generate a lot of views at the moment, it did generate a lot of views when she died. Now, to maximize the reading time of your article, make sure that you pick a topic that solves a problem or that provides some information or solutions to a particular problem. Or maybe you're researching a particular problem or issue that's hot topic in society. Whatever you do, make sure that you pick topics that people actually want to read, because nobody will read an article about something that's very boring, uninteresting, or very long-winded. So the first tip is that you pick a topic that people want to read. Now, my second tip builds a bit on the first tip. When you have your topic, you want to make sure that your article is focused on that topic. You want to make sure that you discuss the thing that you set out to discuss in your article. And one way I try to do this is by asking myself, what do I want my reader to learn or take home from my article? When I write an article about English, I always think about the thing that I want language learners to learn. Because people who read my article expect to learn something from that article or expect to get new information. And I want to make sure that I actually give them that information and nothing more. Everything else that's not related to the topic, or maybe something I can build on in a different article, will be put in a different article. Sometimes you want to write a two-piece article, but I don't recommend doing this that much. I've noticed that two-parters don't read very well, and that people tend to read the first part but don't read on to the second part. And writing a two-parter is very difficult, so I'd leave that for the advanced writers. When it comes to focusing your article, you also want to think about the structure of your article. What you could do to enhance reading time is write your article in short paragraphs. People tend to read short paragraphs quicker than very long paragraphs. It's easier to read and you can finish it quickly. And if your article consists of many short paragraphs, you'll notice that people will end up reading the entire article. So when you're structuring your article, make sure that you're focused and that within that focus, you use short, focused and concise paragraphs to make sure that your reader will read on till the end. Now, there is a different tip you can use to achieve this, but that's for tip number 3. Now, when you're writing your short paragraphs, make sure that you break them at natural points. You don't want to separate or break your paragraph when you're in the midst of explaining something or mid-sentence. Make sure that you finish something and that you move on to the next thing in the next paragraph. Now, tip number 3 is the one that you should definitely incorporate when you're writing articles. Remember, articles are different from essays and reviews because you're not giving a lot of arguments for something that you need to review or something or a statement that you need to defend. You're giving information, and that means that you can play around with your content a bit. Now, I recommend following the dramatic structure in your article. People love reading stories and people love stories and storytelling. And if you're able to write your article in such a way that it tells a story with an exposition, a rising action, a climax and a falling action, you can achieve the best articles ever. So how does this work? Now, I mentioned in tip number 2 that you want to question and ask yourself, what do you want your readers to learn from your article or take home from your article? Now this most important point of your article will be your climax. And everything that precedes your climax is going to be your rising action. Now in your rising action, you're setting a scene, or you're building something, or you're explaining why the thing that you're going to give the reader is important. I did the same in this video. I told you at the beginning that tip number 3 is going to one that you want to use, and tip number 3 is my climax. Tips number 1 and 2 only build up to this climax. Now I end the video with a very quick falling action, because that's not very important, you've already had the climax. And you can do the same in your article. You want to make sure that the reader reads on till the end. So if I've given you the climax, I've given you the information that I set out to give you, you're probably not going to stick for an extra 5 or 6 paragraphs, because you've already read the thing that you're looking for. So make sure that after you've given the reader the thing that they came to get from your article, you end your article quickly. Maybe add 1 or 2 paragraphs that either explain your climax or that build upon the thing that you've said, but then end your article with a conclusion, and don't make your conclusion too long. Now make sure that when you're building up your article towards your climax, you extend the moment of giving that climax as long as possible. So let's say I'm writing an article about what you need to do to speak English like a native speaker. Then I want to make sure that I don't give you the thing that you should do to speak English like a native speaker at the beginning of my article. But I do need to give you some hints to make sure that you read on until you get that piece of information. This is what we call the rising action, and in this rising action you put as much as possible to make sure that you can extend it for as long as possible. Now what you could do is actually pose the question that you're answering in that climax in your title. You want to make sure that your title is attractive and clickable, and if you have a good clickable title, a reader will stay on and read the entire article. Now my bonus tip has to do with language. And as I've already said several times throughout this video, you can use your language to extend the moment in which you give the piece of information. Now what you could do is use adjectives, adverbs and linking words to make sure that even though you're saying something else, you still have a cohesive article. Use a thesaurus or Grammarly to find synonyms for particular adjectives or adverbs that you're using throughout your article. Because you can keep your reader focused by moving around the vocabulary that you're using. Because if I read beautiful 6 or 7 times, after time number 4, I kind of understand what you're saying, something is beautiful. But by using synonyms of the word beautiful, it might appear like I'm reading something else, and I want to stay focused and make sure that I get the piece of information that I came to your article to find. So as a bonus tip, make sure that you mix around and use synonyms of words that you use in your article to keep the reader focused and maintain the reader's attention. So these were some tips on how to write articles people actually want to read. Now make sure you read my article on this topic, which you can find in the link in the description. Now let me know in the comments, what is your absolute tip? What do you do when you're writing articles to make sure that your reader will finish your entire article? If you found this video useful, please consider giving it a thumbs up. If you want to know more about my other videos, or you want to know when my next video will be out, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you'll be the first one to know when the video will be out. For now, thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you in one of my next videos.